Take it away, Franco.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome. My name is Franco Loyola, and I am a student here in the College of Criminology and Criminal Justice. And I'll be serving as your moderator today. Today's event is titled Beyond the Degree, Get Success Ready Test straight from social work and criminal justice pros. Earning a degree is a huge accomplishment, but as we will learn today, success after graduation depends on much more than just what we learn in the classroom. Today's panel is comprised of experts in reentry, policy, mental health, and law enforcement. Just a handful of the wide-ranging career options available to graduates here at the College of Social Works and Criminal Justice. They'll share honest insight to what employers are looking for and what they wish they had known in their careers, and how we as future professionals can stand out as we transition from college into the career field. Then we'll open up the floor to the audience's questions. My classmate James Sturges over here, who is majoring in social work, will facilitate the in-person questionnaire. Our online attendants can post questions in the Zoom chat, which will be monitored by Dr. Meldrum, the Director of Criminology and Criminal Justice. I also want to thank Dr. Meldrum for leading the logistics here today, to make today's event possible and to support the staff who helped to make it possible. Also, just a heads up, the contact information will be up front for each of our panelists, and we'll share a little bit later for everyone who would like to connect with them as the conversation carries on. We'll also share a recording for today's event with everyone who is registered. Now, it is my pleasure today to introduce the panelists. Each of them serve on our college workforce advisory board and are generously giving their time to prepare the students for professional success. First up, we have Lanee Jackson Orange, who spent the first 15 years of her career with the Florida Department of Corrections. She now serves as a reentry workforce professional at OIC of South Florida, assisting returning citizens with mentoring, training, and employment for the success of transitioning back into the workforce. She is also the chair of our workforce advisory board. Next is Jennifer Loyless, works as a program coordinator for the Palm Beach County Public Defender's Office. In her more than 20 years with the agency, she has implemented programming for jails and the prison populations to reduce recidivism, while also assisting the public defender with community outreach and policy advocacy. Next up, we have Jibby Ciric, who serves as the Senior Director for Strategic Impact for the Center of Child Counseling. Throughout her career, she has educated and trained mental health professionals and created and managed innovative programs for the at-most risk community in Palm Beach County. And rounding out our panel, we have Sergeant Matthew White, who has worked for the Boca Police Department, Boca Police Service Department since 2005. He currently supervises recruitment and internal affairs with the department's Professional Standards Bureau and has previously served in various roles, including Special Investigations Detective, Economic and Computer Crime Supervisor, and supervised the Intelligence Narcotics Unit. Thank you all for being here. We truly appreciate the willingness to invest into students like me and guide us for our journey from the classroom into the career. With that, let's go ahead and get started, guys. So our first question: when you think about recent college graduates you've worked with, what professional habits really stand out in good ways or maybe not so good ways?
Good morning, everybody. Thank you for having us here today. Thank you, Dean Luna, for having the foresight to create this group, and Dr. Meldrum. And anyway, that's a great question. What I want to say first is you being here is a great first step. Take advantage of all the opportunities to meet professionals, to learn from professionals, and to find out where you connect and how you connect. I think the one thing that I notice most in a successful hire, whether it be an intern or a permanent position, is when a student or a new professional is curious and connecting and meeting people and seeking advice and asking a lot of questions. You're new on your journey and you have access to so many people who have walked a journey. So learn from them, ask them questions. Folks are going to want to tell you about their journey, and they're going to want to talk about how they became interested in what they're doing and how they achieved the level of success they did. So soak it up like a sponge, ask a lot of questions, be curious, offer to do things, and you'll learn from there what interests you and how you can work towards what it is you want to achieve.
Good afternoon, everyone. My thoughts about that is that is that those who are coachable, who are consistent, and are accountable, those are the ones that really draw my attention to them, because being coachable is so important. Because even if you've gone through an internship while you're here at college, every organization, every agency is different. It may be social worker or case manager is the position in all those organizations, but all of those organizations are different. There's a different vibe in the office. There's a different way of individuals doing things, different paperwork, different ways of them wanting different clients. And so being open-minded and coachable when you enter into these different arenas it goes a long way. And also, like Jennifer was saying, listening, being attentive to what's going on around you with your coworkers, especially individuals who've been in the organization for many years. Shadow them, listen to how they do things, how they interact with clients. Very important.
So to kind of follow up, and I agree with all of that, some of the things that we really look at is being, as we call it, internal. And people often ask, what does that mean? Being internal is basically versus being very external. And this is something that I teach interns. Like those questions, being really like, how can I problem solve this myself? Because the root of the problem, you will come up with yourselves. And then following up with the feedback. I always say one of the things that stands up in interns is providing feedback. I will say that this generation is very successful in doing that. You guys are very good about giving feedback. The only thing that is missing is that internal component. First, seeking the answers within and really identifying what the root things that you're trying to address are. But you guys, one of the things that I noticed in students is that ability to give feedback is really good. And I want to say some of the things that we will address, it's useful in our field in a behavioral health field in general.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much. I think it's a really good point, open-mindedness. So, like with a sponge, I think Jen made that point. Our second question, what are some common missteps young professionals tend to make, and what should our students do now to avoid learning the lesson the hard way?
I can start tonight halfway. So to start with, something that we're noticing lately is and I want to say it's so simple to address and it's so simple to correct, is work attire. So the way that people dress, how you show up for the interview and how do you show up for work. So that is one thing that we commonly especially after COVID, and we still talk about COVID because it's still real, we work so much from home that we could be in our sweats or jeans that are ripped or things. And those are some things we're seeing interns come in the spaghetti straps for the interview or things like that. And that is, I'm not saying any schools because we do have about 20 interns, but that does happen. So that's where it starts. Some of those just being that's the first thing. And second thing that we are noticing is the timeliness. So timeliness on arriving for the meetings, timeliness for the, when they, how they follow up in timely manner. documenting things. So timeliness in general is second thing that we're noticing that is kind of showing up, and not just for this generation, generally I've been in the field for over 20 years now. So that always has been. And the one thing that leads to that, to correcting that timeliness, is just communication. So being open and communicating consistently with the supervisors, with peers on support that you might need. You are new in the field. We don't expect, just being aware that we do not expect anyone for you to know anything. That's why we invest time in training. But those are kind of three things that stand out that are kind of could be easily corrected, kind of, as I call it, low-hanging fruits, right, for correction. So.
Hi, good morning. So I think one of the biggest things that you can avoid is researching. You need to research the job that you're applying for. We have a lot of people come in that know absolutely nothing about the police department. They don't know what specialty units we have, and they really don't know why they want to be there. And that's, one of the big things that we want to know, like, why do you want to be a police officer? Why do you want to work for the Boca Raton Police Department? And I think a lot of people are not prepared for those types of questions. I see that quite a bit. So if you can really come across with your why of why you want to be here, why you want to do what you want to do, that would make you stand out from other interviewers.
Awesome, guys. Thank you. Thank you so much. I think that's a really good point right there to understanding your why. I really appreciate that from you, Sergeant Matthew White. It's a great point to think about, especially I think we go into some internships thinking just because we have to do an internship, we have to go into it. So I think it's a very, very good point to understand your why. So thank you for that. Question 3, how big of a role does a clear and professional communication play in your day-to-day work? Things like emails, reports, and conversations. And what does doing it well look to you? And we kind of touched on this a little bit.
Yeah.
So in police work, communication is essential. And really, I would say for your personal life as well, I think the most successful people, both personally and professionally, are people who can communicate effectively. I know nowadays with the phones, we get tied up in texting and things like that, which is great for quick communications. But, before I was a police officer, I was in the private sector as well. And I know that, everywhere I've been, the people who can effectively communicate with other people on a one-on-one are probably the most successful people that I've seen. Every interaction with police is all about communication. And if you communicate effectively, it can go well or it can go bad, right? So, but if you're a good communicator, usually you have a higher percentage that things are going to go well, and that, so, and I think the ability to have uncomfortable conversations, like if you can develop that skill, that's another huge thing. A lot of people avoid that stuff, and, you're not going to solve any problems by avoiding them. So I think, the more you talk to people, the better you hone that skill. I know a lot of people are nervous about talking to people sometimes, and I'm not a big public speaker, so I'm a little nervous today. But I think it's a learnable skill. And listening obviously is just as important as speaking. But I think, like I said, if you can really polish your communication skills and hone those, not only will you be successful in your professional life, but also in your personal life.
Also, too, understanding that no matter what the communication is or who the communication is to, is that there's clarity involved and that it's professional. What in my line of work, I could be talking to a warden at a prison, or I could talk to the CEO of my organization, or even a participant in one of my programs. All of those emails or verbally, the way I speak to those individuals, it could be a different tone, but it should still be professional and clear. The individual should still be able to understand what you're saying to them, and getting the information that they need from you.
So to that point, I always look, first, again, timely communication. We have a lot of people, a lot of interns that come and they just don't show up for assigned group, right? Or they just missed it, right? It's okay. Life does happen. We always talk about it. We all have our personal life and we all have things that happen. Communicate, right? And the way that to follow up on that, who you're communicating, right? Versus, so we have clients versus peers versus your supervisor. What kind of, when you think of communication, what kind of, is it formal or informal? Because we see a lot of times what happens in document, like it's different when you're texting someone. It's different when you're putting something in chat in Zoom. It's different when you're emailing someone. And it's also very different when you're documenting services, right? So for those formal, remembering to use complete sentences, to not use abbreviations, things like that, right? Because we're so used to, we're in the world of technology that is everlasting increasing and being so busy, sort of say, right? We tend to kind of take those shortcuts, but when you're in a professional field, those thinking of things that could happen, like audits and stuff like that, they look at the completeness of the reporting, right? And whether you're doing it face to face or via some of the platforms, it's very different. And that's one thing with communication. I think that is, again, we're very much in that hybrid world, but practicing those face-to-face communication skills are really of the essence when it comes to being successful.
I was trained as a journalist in college, and one of the things they always told us is don't write it down if you don't want it to end up in the newspaper. So I would just say always err on the side of professionalism. And if you are looking at those tiers and you're not sure what the right thing is to do, just be professional. I have standards with, college professors that I call them Dr. Meldrum until he says, hi, I'm Ryan. Just like follow the cues of the people you're communicating with and don't use emojis, just don't.
A very good point there. Absolutely. And I think that goes well to your point with soaking it up like a sponge, learning the environment, the culture, and whatever professional field we end up in. It's a very good point. I like how you left off on that. For question 4, can you share a real life moment when professionalism or a lack thereof changed how a situation played out?
I interviewed a student for an internship at our office who showed up on the Zoom in her pajamas with her hair in a bun. Was not an FAU student, I will tell you that, but that person. I mean, that person, there was just no chance for them.
I do the success story.
Okay.
I'm strength-based therapist too. So I will say, and this just happened. Literally, we are hiring this intern that was with us for past year. And one of the things, going back to that feedback, I know she must have been scared when she was, first of all, very proactive, very engaging, wanting to learn, took extra trainings, and we have a lot of them at our agency. But one thing that really kind of stood out in hiring her, and honestly, I have to tell you, I'm already thinking like where she's going to be from a year or two now in the supervisory role, because that's how successful she is. And things that really kind of got to that point is giving us feedback. Like I told you guys give great feedback. She gave such a good strategic internal feedback, not like it's your fault, fix it, but this is what I experienced. And I think this is a great thing to do. She suggested, like, we have this group that the whole family interacts, and we always looked at the siblings portion, kind of like babysitting, right, of those children that are getting services. She said, why don't these siblings are also witnessing a lot of trauma that these, due to their siblings in groups are engaging in the behaviors. And she's like, why don't we like open them as the clients in our system and provide some structured time for them? What a novel idea, right? And literally none of us thought of it. But she is an intern did because of her experience, because she was so fresh and she laid the eyes on something that none of us. So naturally she's hired. She's starting next week. And literally I am in my head thinking that this person could be a supervisor in a very short time because of that assertive, strategic way that she addresses and provides feedback. And so don't be scared to do that again.
What a, you going, Lori? Oh, what a great. What a great story. Wow. Only a week ago, you said?
But she is, no, she's,
Just started?
no, she started, she's
Oh.
been with us for a year, so she is gonna transition into a role now of professional, like, we
Right.
hired her.
That's,
As a staff, she starts next week.
that is
So she's
actually
been
so
with
nice.
us.
We wish her the best of luck as she goes into that. That's awesome. Thank you. Now, we're going on to question 5. When you're hiring or supervising new college graduates, what makes you think, yes, now this person is ready for the workforce? I think goes well with your story. What was that moment where you realized like this wasn't?
Just her ability to be very assertive in the moment. She would communicate her needs where she feels she's not ready to do things. She would take extra trainings. I mean, just the communication was a big one. She's very open to communicating with us, between supporting our staff, even like that peers. We call them peers because they're already professional in my eyes. So she did that really quickly, all of it. So.
Also, too, individuals when they come in, I think it was mentioned before, asking questions. Also, in my line of work, there's a lot of grant-funded programs. So coming in and knowing if you are working under a grant, asking to read the grant to find out what your piece is to the puzzle of that grant, so that you're able to understand the reaching implications of what your position provides to that program. I love to see people do that, to be proactive with it, instead of me asking them to read the grant. They're coming to me asking me to, can they have a copy of the grant? Just being very proactive when it comes to things like that, wanting to know more about the organization, more about the division that they work under. All of those pieces looks great to an employer.
I think, again, it all boils down to communication. I think that's a common theme you're going to hear throughout most of our answers. It's one thing to have a good resume and things on paper, but if you can't communicate what's on that paper, like, how have these experiences affected you? What did you learn from these experiences? That's the kind of things that, like, as a hiring person, we're interested in, like, not just what you did, but what did it take to get there? Did you have to overcome any hurdles to get there? Like, we want to hear about stuff like that. Like, what did you learn? How's this affected you? All those types of things. If you can communicate that during your interview, I think you'll be much more successful than other people.
We always say at the public defender's office that you get out what you put in. And so if you're actively trying to be part of a team to solve problems, and you're not just sitting in your office with the door closed, if you're seeking advice, giving advice, sharing stories, I mean, people's lives are on the line in our office, and you got to take that seriously. But you're also not in it alone, and seeing interns, young professionals come in that really embrace that support and giving and receiving, really get a lot more out of the work that we do, I think. And that does also include all of the communication. Is very important.
No, thank you. It's a really good segue talking about our experiences. This question for me personally hits a lot closer to home. It's one of my favorite questions. Social work and justice-related careers can be emotionally taxing and ethically complicated. What advice would you give students to help them prepare for those challenging moments early on?
You're not alone. Everybody processes all of this in different ways. So be proactive in talking about your concerns. And I think that a lot, like some of the things that have been said here today about y'all aren't afraid to give your feedback. I feel like such an old lady, this younger generation. And that's so important because it is taxing work. And we've implemented trainings and sessions and things to try to provide that support, but you have to be open to accepting that. And people receive things in different ways. Some people just need a mentor to talk to. Some people come in and tell us that they've lined up a therapist because they're going to do this work for the rest of their life. So you have to find out how you internalize and how you need that kind of support. And if the office isn't providing it, that you choose to go in isn't providing it, then speak up and tell them you need it. Because if it's something that you're going to do all your life, it's definitely necessary.
I think health and wellness is a big thing in policing these days. We have a health and wellness coordinator at the police department to assist officers, with these types of things. It's very important to have a good support system around you, friends and family that know what you do and that you can talk to. And then things like, a lot of people don't think about it, but eating right, staying physically fit, getting enough rest, that really can affect you. Like if you're not doing those things, you need to be prepared, obviously. So the more rest you get, the better eating, the better shape you're in, the better you are to be prepared for when these challenges come up. So I would say that's a big part too.
I think it's also important to build boundaries, especially when you're dealing in these two lines of work, social work and criminal justice. Because if you don't, burnout will come quickly. So you have to set boundaries. You're dealing with individuals who have various traumas, and we're helping them navigate through life and maybe doing a reset on maybe some previous indiscretions that they may have gone through. And so you have to be able to provide your services, help them the best way that you can, but also setting those boundaries so that they can be successful, but also so that you can continue in the work.
So one thing that I always used to say, new staff coming in as well as interns, I say there's black and white, and you as a social worker, same with criminal justice, you'll just have to learn to exist in gray. And that's what does that mean? It's constant thinking process, what to do, how to act. You never know how your clients or community will respond to you. You have to be on your toes, and that's tolling. So what we always did, we always we encourage our staff and our interns to find a community. We do that naturally in our agency by hiring interns and staff in cohorts. So that support comes naturally from their cohorts that they are hired with, right? And that way they feel also more comfortable about, should I ask that question, or is it okay to ask that question? It kind of opens them up, because most of the time, if one has the question, everyone else has that question. Also, trainings are of such essence, because by learning, we naturally bring ourselves into two fields that you guys are choosing, right? But knowing skills related to those fields is useful, because we call both of our fields helping professions. And that puts a lot of responsibility on the professionals. How I call it is supporting profession. I always come from a stand, our clients have to support them. That kind of takes away the responsibility, because helping someone means the full active engagement, and that takes toll on people. And also being aware. We just created a new training for our staff called secondary trauma. So first, we bring our own traumas and things that we have experienced from our past into our work, because it's just such a interactive work with the community and with the clients. But even if you never experienced trauma, we all working with the clients that we do work in both fields, you take that in order to support them. And that's called secondary trauma. It's real, it exists, and it brings it to, so just knowing the cues, knowing when to step back, having that support at work, in your personal life is of essence. And that brings, we call this model, there's a model called HOPE, healthy outcomes from positive experiences. So we advocate that for same with our clients, with community and our staff.
Yeah, support, boundaries, but I think the most important one, that you are never alone. We're all in this together, no matter what field we end up going into, you're never alone. Good. reminder is a good reminder you want to constantly be thinking about. So thank you guys so much for that answer. Question 7. For students who are just starting out, how can they build a solid professional reputation in environments where trust and teamwork are vital?
Go ahead.
No, go ahead. Go
I
ahead.
was just gonna say, again, communication, I think it's kind of, we talked about a little bit before, but like, if you're in an environment and you want to build trust and teamwork, it's having good communications, it's showing interest, it's that type of thing. And, and living by your word, being who you say you are. I mean, that's huge. Like, be genuine. Don't be afraid to say you don't know or ask for help, or, it's really, good. Like I said, I just can't harp enough on honing your communication skills, because everybody wants to be with someone who they're friendly with, right? Like, it builds trust, especially for police work, right? I may have to save this person's life one day, or they might have to save mine. So, I want to feel like I have some type of relationship with them, that I can trust them, that we're on the same page. So I think just, can't say enough about communication, and building your reputation through effective communication. Everything builds on that.
Something that I always say to students: we think of Palm Beach County being a huge county. I say, do not get fooled. This county is this big at the end. Like, I'm just looking at Dean Luna, how many meetings have we interact over the years, right? And hold huge respect for that, because I know what Dean Luna has done in the past for our community. So with that, I mean, just know that be visible, be present, and be flexible. Be flexible to be able to meet the needs of your peers, of your coworkers, of the needs of the community. Flexibility, that's one thing that in, I think, all our fields, you have to learn to pivot, right? And to be there and to support. So I think visibility and being flexible, and just knowing that that this community of supporting professions is really small. It's actually not that big as it looks like. So so just being mindful of how you communicate, how you show up, and that's something that's gonna support your progression in the career, I feel.
Because this is a small community, you need to build connections. You need to make relationships with people. A lot of times, and this is something that I say, is it's you can't show what you know without going through the people who you know, right? So if you want to do what one of us does in the future, we should know you and your name, and have a communication with you today, and a way to contact with each other in the future, right? That you've got to make yourself known in the area that you want to be involved in.
Awesome. Communication is really that key theme there. And for our final question for the fixed questionnaire, if you could go back and have a prep talk with your younger self on your first day of work in your field, what is the most important piece of advice you would share?
I would definitely tell my younger self to listen more than I speak. Definitely do that. Also, that my future is built on everyday moments. So just every day, be intentional about what you are doing, what you're trying to accomplish, so that later on in life, your credibility is going to get you in rooms that maybe your resume can't. So that's what I would definitely tell my younger self.
I don't think I was gonna say
That was
something
great.
that's
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Beautiful.
All that. So that was good. But I think I would, something that I had actually, when I read that question, I was gonna say, so my master's is in mental health. I was gonna say, I would, first thing that I would do, tell my younger self, do social work. But then no, honestly, it's a combination of two that makes this feel great, honestly. But skills, I would acquire more skills right away from the beginning. I was so focused on the clients and being there for the clients, and that I wish I from the get-go, from the beginning, kind of acquired more skills. Hence why I chose later on to do my doctorate, because I felt I needed more. But and also not thinking that you have to know everything just because you got this job. Please do not do that. I did that, and it puts, again, a lot of responsibility. Ask questions. People are there to support you. So that's one big one that I think I did that I would not do it the same, because I thought, okay, I got a job now, I have to do it everything perfect, right? And that's not the case. No one expects that of you.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much. Thank you, panelists. Now let's go ahead and shift over to the audience Q&A. I'm gonna go ahead, pass the mic to my classmate, James Sturges. If you have any questions for our panelists, please raise your hand, or for those online, drop it in chat, and we can get as many as we can. Here you go, James.
Yeah, like Franco said, if you have a question, please raise your hand. I'll come up to you. Same thing with audience on the online portion. Doesn't seem like there's too many, but please, if you do. If you don't, it's okay too. One in the back.
I just wanted to ask, like, what is, and this is for all four of you, but specifically for the public defender, because I want to be a criminal defense attorney. I was going to ask, what does a typical day look like for both a new intern or hire, or like, what do you guys do in your Monday through Friday day-to-day life?
It's a lot less glamorous than it is on television. So our lawyers spend a lot of time with our clients. That's really okay. We interview our clients in the jail if they're still incarcerated. We do a lot of work preparing cases. Which includes depositions. I would say that our lawyers are probably in court maybe 20% of the week versus the other parts of the work that they do. Each of our lawyers has about, depending on whether it's a felony or misdemeanor caseload, about 60 to 80 cases. So there's a lot of interaction with those clients, interaction with witnesses, with victims in certain cases that we're trying to resolve. A lot of work with the enforcement involved in the case. We hire our office has about 200 people on staff, and about 100, a little over 100 of them are lawyers. We have investigators, which is something that is offered to undergraduate students at FAU to be interns with our investigations division. And I think that that's a real, if you're considering going to law school and you want to do criminal law, it's a really good opportunity to learn if it's for you, because that internship is very intense. A lot of times the interns are meeting with the clients in the jail and making phone calls and looking at crime scenes and things like that. You leave there knowing whether the criminal justice world is for you. And even we've had investigator interns from FAU actually become investigators in our office, go to law school, come back and be an assistant public defender. And we have one FAU grad who currently went that path and is leading our misdemeanor division right now. So there's leadership opportunities. We have social services in our office because so many of our clients have needs. And did that answer your question? Did that give you? I'd be happy to talk to you afterwards if you're interested.
All right, thank you. Anybody else have any questions?
Hello, first time holding a microphone, so excuse me. I wanted to get into the mental health social work world. So I guess my question for the whole panel is, how do you most commonly see the effectiveness of these interns come in? Where do you most likely see them coming through? Internships, networking? That's my question.
I can answer that. A lot of our, so it's a mixture. It's a mixture of things. A lot of our, we always look to hire our interns because they already know every nonprofit organization, I can speak to mental health field in nonprofit world. It's a little bit different, right? The paperwork, the funding is different, you know. So, so the best way to be successful and to feel at ease is doing the internship. So really researching before you start your internship, really researching to start in the right point, what the jobs are, what those agencies do to align as much as possible with your experience to potentially stay there. Because as an intern, you kind of learn everything, right? And then you feel comfortable. So you kind of, you know, like one of the things that we always say to our staff, we have to remind them and our supervisors, you can't do everything you do with staff. We know that they're great, the interns, but they're not staff. You can't do, because it's just like they get used in it, and then it's like almost natural progression. So knowing your, but then we do have people that just come in, right? That graduated, have experience somewhere else and just want to change, or different organization, or just aligns better with them. And that's fine too. So we have those two streams, but most of the nonprofit, I would say, like we kind of recycle a lot. That's why we know each other a lot. So yeah, but that's the best way, unless, you know, some people just want to do substance use, which is slightly different. So I think finding your niche before you decide, do I like working with children? Do I like working with adults? Is there a mixture, families, or do I like substance use? Do I like hospital setting? You know, like social work is such wide, you can do so many things, like from hospital to, you know, and also there are times when interns come, and that's a great way to say, I just can't do this. I do not ever want to do this, right? So they change, right? So they go to HR, right, or something. I've seen that happen a lot. But trying to find that niche so you can start your internship in that direction really makes it set you up for success, because you're already exposed to different community events, meetings, things like that. So you start knowing people, and it just makes it more effective that way. Okay.
Thank you. We have another one, and then one online as well.
So this is for anyone at the table. Having such like high stress, important jobs to the community, how do you best like mentally prepare yourself when you know you have a long day ahead of you?
I mean, I think for police, again, I think I kind of said it before. Staying in shape, eating right, getting enough sleep. I mean, it's huge, especially, you know, if you're a border patrol officer and you're out, you know, it's 12-hour shifts. They're long days. So, you know, I think preparation, right? So if I'm not tired, you know, I'm fed, you know, my body's nourished, you know, I got enough sleep where I'm not like in a brain fog, that definitely, you know, I mean, that can change your whole day. And then, you know, again, the mental side of it, you know, having the support system, you know, it's important. I have friends who are police officers, but I have friends who aren't police officers too, right? So, you know, it's important that sometimes you got to leave the work at work, and, you know, on your off time, you know, it's a balance, and it's not easy, but you know, just knowing it, you know, that like, hey, you know, I'm feeling a certain way or whatever, I need to have a hobby, you know. It's important to have outlets. So
Awesome. Thank you.
yes.
I also think just knowing what to expect of the day, because I think like with police and with a lot of our jobs, there's unforeseens, there are crises that happen. So just knowing and being prepared that can happen at any time, and just kind of accepting that as a norm, not as kind of like, oh, it happened again. Of course it happened again. Do you know where you work for? You know, it is bound to happen, you know. So just knowing that those things and planning, like, okay, what is set for my schedule, right? What am I prepared for everything? Who can I go to if I need more information? And then being ready to provide feedback for anything or intervene when needed.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I think for a police officer, I think a lot of people are attracted to police work because it is different. Like every day is different. Like no 2 days are ever really the same. So usually the personality that's kind of attracted to police work is kind of looking for that, you know, kind of what's gonna happen next.
And that's a little bit about where I was going to go. I think it's like listening to your internal cues and noticing when you're feeling comfortable in situations and not. I learned pretty early on in this work that I couldn't do client facing work. I needed to do more at the policy level, because I would I did client facing work, I'd probably end up with people living in my house, and I don't have the boundaries that they were discussing earlier. So just listen to your internal cues, and there's roles that suit this helping profession for everybody, regardless of whether it's directly serving the clients or not.
Thank you all so much.
Thanks for that reminder that self-care is healthcare. And then from our online portion from Sarah, we have for the public defender, do you look for forensic social workers or anything related? I am a social work major with a passion in criminal justice and interested in going into something similar.
We do have a forensics it's a small division, and that those individuals help out mostly in our major crimes cases where the death penalty is on the table. There was recently a case that our forensics individual was very involved in that was in the paper recently, and she played a vital role in the outcome of that case. We do have a staff of about 12 social workers that work in various roles to help secure the release of our clients pre-trial into services, that by working through those services, hopefully it will improve the outcome of their open criminal. Have social workers that are just putting people in placements as part of resolutions of the case, and then we just have social workers helping our clients because our clients need a lot of help. So there definitely is a growing role. Our newly elected public defender has really done a lot of work in that area, and I would and be happy to connect with this individual to talk about how maybe they can learn more.
Thank you. Any other question in the back?
This question goes out to the whole panel. What is the most memorable experience of your career?
So it's not to do with this glamorous thing. It has to do with the client. So I literally got a client, and I still remember, I think I was in maybe second or third, just coming out of, I worked in corrections as a therapist as well. But this client was in particular, he actually had so many charges, and finally the last one was on campus he pulled the police gun out of his home. I don't know how it happened, and nothing happened luckily, but he was so anyways, it was really deep end kind of work, and I think I was with him for probably 4 or 5 years. I'm an outpatient therapist. I should be with a client between 6 months to a year. So he kept coming back, but we got to a point where that year I called to schedule an appointment, and his grandma was a guardian. She said, I mean, this is it. He's been in front of the judge so much, he's going into. So I was like, can I come? And I showed up and I advocated. I looked, of course, I educated myself on everything, and I looked and I kind of spoke in front of the judge, and he said, well, all right, now he's yours. He's your responsibility. If anything else happens, it's on you. So I worked with him for 4 or 5 years. Graduated for college. He left that school, was able to integrate into EPS school, then went to regular school over the time. Yeah, so he's now very successful, working full time, driving, doing everything, and has not gone back. And I don't want to go into details, but there are a lot of details that happen over time between cutting and between social skills and on spectrum and trying to figure out, but navigating that together with his family and him. He's always stayed with me. So
I was just thinking, because the nature of my work, we provide programming to assist individuals with vocational training and job assistance who are individuals who are currently incarcerated, or they're getting ready to get out, or they've recently been released from prison. So I've come across a number of success stories that I could mention, but just in general, individuals who have gone through my program, who now they're working successfully, they're a member of a union. It's an international union of painters and allied trades in Broward County. They're a member of the union. They're working with them on a regular basis, and they have no plans of returning back to incarceration. Those are the success stories that I like to see, and I think that's what keeps me moving in this line of work. I love to see individuals seeing another way of life and not going back to their previous environment, previous means of making money, that they see another way of doing things. And that's what keeps me motivated.
In Florida, when you're a convicted felon, you lose your civil rights, which are your right to have a gun, right to vote, sit on a jury. And we started a program in our office helping the very tedious process of restoring civil rights to individuals. Is a separate pathway. And I worked with a gentleman who was, I think, maybe 60 or 70 when I was working with him, and he had an extensive criminal history, and we were able to work through the process and restore his right to vote. And he called me crying from the polling place when he finally got to vote. And I just, we can't decide what's important. We don't have the right to decide what's important to somebody. We just have the right to walk on their journey with them and try to help restore what's important to them. And that was just really, really meaningful.
All right, thank you guys. It's all the really great motivations to keep going for sure. Do we have any other questions? Got a couple. 3. I'll go.
This would be particularly for the public defender. What steps did you take as an undergraduate to be prepared for the LSAT and even law school?
Well, I'm not a lawyer, but I did take the LSAT. I was considering being a lawyer, but my father, who is a lawyer, convinced me that I would never practice any type of law that would pay off my law degree, which he was right. But yes, there are classes out there, and I highly encourage you to take them. There's most universities have study groups to help you prepare. It is unlike anything I've ever experienced in my life, the LSAT. So just again, like you're here today, taking advantage of an opportunity, find out when you get into law school right away what they offer you can take around the LSAT. And well, I guess that's the step between now and law school, but don't walk into the test blind, because the first time I took it, there's a point at which you can walk out without it counting against you. They don't score it. And the first time I was so shocked because I hadn't done any preparation. So definitely take advantage of classes. I know there's tutoring organizations, but maybe there's something here, study group or something that exists in your school that would help you.
You actually offers the LSAT prep class, and I believe it's more affordable than if you do it privately.
And start your Florida bar application as soon as you start law school, because the character and fitness portion of it requires you to list every place you've ever lived. And it is really a challenging application.
All right, thank you.
Hello, me again. I guess my question is, how do you, I guess, maintain that gray area, whether it's corrections and public defense and mental health and all that? How do you, I guess, maintain that gray area?
I think from my perspective, like Sergeant was saying, is people who want to be public defenders are typically more comfortable in that gray area than maybe somebody who wants to be a prosecutor, who might look at things in more of a black and white fashion. So I think that if you're your nature will draw you to a profession that is more, where you're just sort of naturally more comfortable.
I think that definitely with experience, that gray area becomes easier to manage. So I'm not going to minimize that. Experience definitely does that. It just lets you, allows you to kind of draw from different situations and what you heard. What I think is, again, support. Being there, knowing who your support system is, whether it's peer, supervisor. Like we literally, at my former agency, but I would train also, and I created a full training process. We would have about 5 people that you can call at each time. And we would, if you don't get landed that kind of place, asking those questions is important, because you will not just naturally, you will have internal instincts. And I always, like, as much as it's a balance of trusting your gut and using the skills that you know, knowing ethical practices for your profession is very important. So reading those boring policies and procedures that you sign and never read, read them. They guide you. They guide you on what is the process when you need to call 911. What is the process? When do you write an incident report? They tell you about all those things, right? When to call abuse hotline, when to call, all those weird things that happen. They're actually in those procedures, policies and procedures. So they're a good start, because that's generally something that doesn't come with a training, right, of skills. So that's what it is. And then, like I said, for the practical part, using those so you know how to respond appropriately. So those are the 3 things I would say how to navigate best the gray area.
All right, thanks. You got one more.
Hello. My question is for everyone. Working for the community, you meet a lot of new people with different personalities. Some people or situations can be a handful. How do you experience burnout? If so, how do you navigate through that?
I've been in the field for 20 years, and I think, again, going back to knowing what you really want to do, like, I love my job. My husband hates me for that, because he's like, who finds that kind of love for their job? So I have to say, I've never in my life experienced a burnout, because I truly, I think I was born to do this. Besides running, which is my first passion, I was born to do my job. And I think that is so important, because that supported me in first being there for clients, and that was my main thing, but also supporting young professionals. Like I said, my other like creating a whole platform of trainings for interns, for staff, delivering training community, like all of that I love, because I love the core of the job that I do. And I think that's preventing the burnout. And going back to what I said about a couple of interns that said, I never want to do that. I commend them, because it takes a lot to get your master's in social work or mental health and then decide not to do it. But I commend them, because that is exactly, so researching, finding what your niche is, finding what you love is so important. Navigating burnout, I say that I've seen people getting burnt. That listening to those cues, like I said in the beginning, like your own traumas that come up, that secondary trauma, understanding how to set boundaries when that secondary trauma starts to creep up, knowing symptoms surrounding that, and communicating that and stepping back and knowing how to protect yourself and support yourself. So those are.
I think it really matters where you go to work too. I think well-run organizations put steps in place to make sure that you're supported, on an sort of an individual daily basis, but also sort of structurally. Like, an example I have from our office is, we might periodically put people that have been working serious felony cases at our first appearance office, which is where people go when they're arrested to be released from jail or held. And that's just more of a process versus reading probable cause affidavits and getting involved in cases and interviewing witnesses and learning about all the client's trauma and things like that. So we have a structure in place where people can rotate into sort of less pressured areas periodically in order to relieve some of that at times. So I think asking the questions, how are you going to support me what processes, will I have a mentor, whatever works for you, I think is important when you are interviewing for a job to ask those questions and make sure that support systems exist.
Yeah, I think to prevent burnout, once again, health and wellness, huge part of that. And then, like for police work, there's so much different things you can do in police work. You can be on road patrol, you can be in the detective bureau, we have specialized units like K9. So there's a lot of different things you can do. Everyone normally starts out on road patrol, and then you'll kind of get a feel for, hey, what are my other interests? There's just so many different things you can do at the Boca dump in the area. We have a bomb squad, we have a dive team. It's endless. And even in the detective bureau, you could work on persons type cases, you can work on property crimes type cases. So there's a lot of different things you can do. And it's one thing that I was able to do in my career is kind of move around a little bit. When something gets a little, hey, I'm going to try something else. So hopefully you'll be in an organization where there's other options for you, that'll keep you, passionate about what you're doing.
All right. Well, thank you guys so much. And thank you for your wonderful questions. I think we have a couple closing words, but if there's any questions that you have for any of the panelists specifically, here's all of their emails. I encourage you to take a picture. Again, this is all recorded, but we have great resources here. That's using them is only going to help you. I've learned a lot just sitting here.
Yeah, thank you, panelists, so much for getting in depth with all these questions. I think a lot of these questions we ask ourselves all the time. I want to especially thank you guys for taking the time tonight to really get to dive into this. All you guys, and it's such a diverse set of fields, where it's the police department, it's reentry, public defender, and child psychology. It's honestly such an awesome experience getting to see how all these different experiences play out. So yeah, and I thank all of you guys for coming in, to getting to listen. I think all you guys asked great questions. You guys asked some really good questions, and some of them are definitely my favorite. So thank you guys for coming, and thank you guys. Thank you.
Not epic, because I'm sure it's fine, it's fine.